Good afternoon and welcome to Nigeria Now on Echo Television, where we keep you updated with the happenings presently in the country. I am Sada Elisha Tasham. I'll be doing the program alongside Rachel Tanzi. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
All right, we have a story or two that we would love to discuss here on the show, so you can be part of the conversation by joining us live through Facebook and on YouTube, and then as well you can drop your comment and your views on any of the matters that's actually very dear to your heart. And we would love to start with the issue where we're seeing that the governors of the 36 states are coming out, which most of the governors are coming out to say the fact that they did not receive any money coming from the federal government. We will recall that during the plenary, we had the Senate President Akpabio coming out to say that the FRS have actually released 30 billion naira to every of these governors. Therefore, they should use this money greatly to actually help the citizens and the indigents in their own state. Now, we're saying that especially the governor of Oyo State, Sheikh Makinde, have come out to state the fact that he did not, and no governor have actually collected that money, because if they have, he would have known as being the deputy chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. Now, Rachel, looking at what the Senate President said, I mean, categorically stating the fact that they have released this money. Now, we will record that in September, these governors received 2 billion naira from the 5 billion naira that was supposed to go to the state as a loan. Which were even saying that, and they are meant to pay that loan by December, so they are supposed to refund back the money. And then we remember, apart from the money, each state was supposed to also get trucks of grains that were supposed to come to actually help cushion the effect of the high cost of transport and then also the high cost of food in the market. Now we're seeing that our Senate President came out to state the fact that unverified information. Now that is where I have a problem. Unverified was the word he used, and if he, during that he said he received that information, and therefore he's certain that governors of the state should actually make good use of this money, especially with the way things are. Now, if the Senate President is saying this, and then according to him the information is unverified, why make a statement when you are not sure?
When it's unverified.
It's unverified. I mean, you've not verified whether it's true or not. Now, he said this was even apart from the federal allocation that was supposed to get to the state. Additionally. Now, we're even saying that Sheikh Makinde is even stating the fact that, you know what, there is no how government can actually send that money. Ideally, any money that comes into any state revenue is being sent down to the federal allocation. It is a responsibility of FEC to actually send this money, not the federal government sending it directly to the state. Now, looking at this back and forth, and then with what is happening presently in the country, Rachel, do you see this is more like starting a riot or starting a clash between the Senate President and also the governors? Because not only are we having Oyo State, we have even representative from Sokoto, Lagos, Zamfara also coming out saying, you know what, we did not see any amount of such coming from the federal government to actually help us cushion the effect of this hardship going on presently in the country.
As far as I'm concerned, this is absolute politics in play. It's like let's wash off our hands and just leave the state government to deal with the people directly. And Akpabio have proven to be a clown ever since he became the 10th Senate President, and he is fond of making careless statements, saying things that you wonder if he thinks sometimes. I mean, no offense whatsoever, but that is how he has always presented himself. And you wonder, is this our Senate President? First of all, is unverified, and you still went ahead to say it. People will believe you because you are the Senate President. So whether it's unverified or verified, as long as it's coming from your mouth, people will believe it. And we saw this on the paper, and then we also questioned it. I said, are we sure? because state governors are yet to make mention of anything concerning 30 billion naira given to them. And then yesterday, after his statement, yesterday was on the paper that state governors have received. And I believe if not for Governor Makinde coming out to say, you know what, I haven't seen anything. And then other state governors speaking out and saying our allocations do not come with anything extra, any extra 30 billion on it for us to be able to solve the issues of hardship in the country or to subsidize for grain. And you come to think of it, all what the state government were able to get was 2 billion, which it separated that 2 billion was going to go for like cash gifts and all of that, and then for the grains. And they still haven't gotten their grains completely. And I was beginning to wonder, if a government that couldn't give 5 billion in palliative, how come they were able to give 30 billion, knowing fully well that we are walking into an economic situation right now that nothing worse as it was compared to 2000. Like, it was just having a drastic downward slope. I'm looking forward to a more serious Senate precedent, because no, this shouldn't even be heard of in the first place. You can't come and make a statement concerning money when you know the eyes of people are on the government to see what are they going to do concerning the hardship in the country. And people are also looking at the state government, because that is directly where the people of Nigeria get to feel the impact of the government. And then you make such a statement, and imagine if the governors were quiet about it, because 30 billion is a lot of money, and we should be able to feel the impact. We should be able to go a long way at the state level. And then here we are now seeing that it is not so. You're raising people's hopes high. And where politics is in play is like, let me say this, perhaps let the people of Nigeria stop asking the federal government, what are you doing? And let their focus go to the state government. Because how will it be that the federal government has given the state government this so much money and we are not seeing anything? And then maybe a little attention will be shifted from the federal government, and then we will now start focusing on what is the state government doing with this so much amount of money that the federal government is giving. I'm looking forward to a more serious Senate president. He's disappointing anytime he talks, and it's sad on a lot of level. I just hope that, what are you doing as a Senate president? Because we are yet to see the 10th House of Assembly do anything drastic concerning the hardship of this country. Nothing yet, nothing whatsoever. If they've done anything, I mean, let's see it. But apart from moving of motions for their cars and all of that, they haven't sat down and put anything in place so far concerning the hardship of the country. All they can do is just to beat around the bush about certain things, talk about the amendment of the constitution, which of course is, by the way, what is the current situation in the country, or raise up things like whether we should go for parliamentary or presidential system. No, face governance and leave politics for once. Let's grow Nigeria. But so far we've not had the 10th Assembly do anything reasonable as regarding the hardship of this country.
No, Rachel, you are very, very right. The fact that ever since we had this Senate, we're yet to see them come up with something very drastic to actually help Nigerians. I mean, yesterday on the show was when I was applauding them for the step they took to us, saying that, you know what, the government cannot increase the electricity tariff, because looking at what is happening presently, they cannot allow that. And I was excited, and I actually said, because I'm always of the school of thought that, you know what, when the government are doing well, we should applaud them. It is our responsibility. Yes. But when you're not doing well, we should definitely call you to order, because, I mean, Nigerians cannot all be here on the show to actually tell the government what to do. And that is why they have us to be their mouthpiece, to actually let them know this is what is happening, just in case you are not aware. And you made mention of the fact that the Senate president has been making a number of utterances, and sometimes you cannot help but, you know, Nigerians will begin to wonder the kind of Senate president we have. Certain speech coming from you, I clearly remember the speech where you said they're going to get some allowances, and then later on you came out, it seems as if it was a slip of the tongue, but you know, you actually made that statement.
The prayer
exactly. We now got another, he now said another thing, making he mentioned the fact that when they said let the poor break, and he was laughing, and Nigerians were not happy. What is funny about that statement, because Nigerians are suffocated Nigerians are going through a lot of hardship, and you were actually catching phone with that statement. Now, just like you say, you're looking forward to seeing a more serious Senate president. I just don't want to believe that maybe sometimes his papers are being shuffled in a way, or maybe he really doesn't go through certain things. But I think that henceforth it is important that our Senate president should be very, very deliberate in knowing what he is about to say. Because believe me, I made mention of the fact that right now it seems as if we are walking on eggshells. It's on a time bomb. Nigeria is about to explode if you do not do something. So having utterances such as this, you made mention of the fact that it's more like you making a statement and leaving the state governors to deal with their citizens or their indigents, whatever you tell them. But you do, I mean, just like you said, we are happy that Seyi Makinde was able to come out to say that. We didn't get that. If you're trying to play politics, we will not play politics with you alongside, because you're talking about lives of Nigerians. So imagine the kind of hope Nigerians were having that, you know what, our governors are getting additional money, and then you don't see anything. Definitely you get angry with your governors. Maybe that is what is giving birth to the various protests we are seeing in various states, because Nigerians are saying, you are getting money, but how comes we're not seeing anything whatsoever? So I think it's very, very important that the Senate president should be deliberate before you make any speech. Confirm your information, because we said whether it's true or not, it's coming from the government. I mean, Senate president, not even just one of the senators in the House. Over there, we've just seen, I mean, for the few months they've been in office, it seems as if it's only the House of Reps have been trying to see what they can do. We're waiting for our lawmakers to really be lawmakers, to actually uphold the law, because if you're supposed to be the ones making law, make good laws that Nigerians will actually feel its impact, and not say some statement or actually make some careless words that you begin to wonder if really our Senate president goes through his speech. So we look forward to seeing him confirming his information before he says certain things. But I believe that there's still more to this. Possibly there'll be verification, because they said the money was supposed to be coming from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So let us see what all of this, how they came up with all of this information, how he came up with it, and then that will actually clear whatever misconception it is here. Now, still looking at the issue of hardship, I mean, we've been talking, I think there's nothing more in Nigeria than what is happening. We're seeing that our president is insisting on sticking to his reforms. We've seen a number of people coming out, analysts, economics, experts, saying the fact that, you know what, our president needs to reverse some of the reforms they have made, especially the economic reforms they've made. Immediately after his inauguration was when we saw the removal of fuel subsidy on his acceptance speech. It was when he said fuel subsidy is gone and everything went up. Shortly after was the floating of the Naira, amid many other reforms he made during that time. And then for all of these reforms he has put in place, it has not only inflicted hardship on Nigerians, but has made life unbearable for a number of Nigerians. Now we're saying that the president is saying, yes, of course, I know the things are hard, and I'm pleading with you to be patient with me. In fact, yesterday we saw when Gowon was actually saying, please be patient with the president. And a number of experts are saying, I mean, at the young age when Gowon was the head of state of Nigeria, he was able to bring in different people together collectively under a unity umbrella, so that we can actually have people's viewpoint on how Nigeria can grow. And those people feel that, you know what, Gowon should actually lend this knowledge, or how he was able to do that back then, to this present president. Now we're seeing our president insisting and sticking. I am not going back on my reforms. Yet, right now, the implementation may be hard on Nigerians, but I am insisting that these policies are here to stay. So Nigerians should actually stick with it. Now we're saying that there are a lot of speculation. We're supposed to have our monetary policy meeting on Monday. So a number of speculations are going around. What is it going to be about? Because anytime we see an increase in inflation, the next thing we know, there's going to be an interest rate. And Nigerians are asking, should that be the concern of the CBN governor? Because a number of people are always wanting to hear the CBN governor. And he's not a politician. So we're not supposed to hear him all the time. He's supposed to be at the background working. Let us just see and feel the effect of all of that. But then now, looking at what the president has said concerning his reforms, because we cannot have him doing, we can't have the CBN governor doing anything without the approval of the president. What do you feel about the president sticking to these reforms, and then looking at the hardship and the effect of these reforms on Nigerians presently?
We have two major reforms that are causing the problem we have right now in this country, Sele. There are many other. There are tax waivers, there are excise duty, and all of that. So many tiny things, bits and pieces, left, right, center, that the president have put in place. But the number two, the two top ones that are the reasons we are where we are is subsidy, fuel subsidy removal, and then the floating of the Naira currency. Now, it's very insensitive for President Tinubu to say there's no going back. Fuel subsidy removal is a little bit of a tricky one to go back to paying subsidy. Market value have changed, currency value have changed, and all of that. So it's also very tricky to go back. However, Sele, the floating of our Naira can be removed. In fact, I believe it's one of those policies that should be brought back to what it is. The reason being is that a floating of a currency, a floating of the Naira would have done any help, would have appreciated our currency's value as against the dollar. We should have started seeing it by now. The same way we are waking up every day, right? And seeing, that was the aim of the floating in the first place, is to give value to the Naira. So, but if you floated something and then you wake up tomorrow, and rather than it staying, okay, maybe it remains at 600, it was at 600 perhaps, I'm just saying that's not the figure when it was floated, and then you wake up and then tomorrow is, let's say, 650, the next week you wake up is 700, then it stays at a point, for example, and then the following week we see it going down to 690. Some days later, weekend, we see it down to 650. Then that is when you know that this policy is working for you. Why? Because it is trading that we do. Forex exchange is inflow and outflow of currency. It's not, you didn't plant maize that you have to wait 3 months to know whether your crop have germinated. No, it's trading. You put it for the importer and exporter window, meaning there is demand and supply. Of course. So it's not something that you have to wait 3 years later to see if this floating is going to help your currency. It's right, it's there and then. And for you to sit down now, even if, because if you eventually change it, it's still going to give it a long period of time. And the truth is that what will give value to Nigerian currency as it is now, the real thing that will give our currency its value, is something, are the things we need to put in place that before we will start feeling the impact will take at least 10 years. We're talking about industrialization. We're talking about a balance of trade surplus, where we are exporting more than we are importing. We're talking about consumption of our own made goods. If you look at economy with good currencies, they consume virtually more than 80% of what they make in the country rather than importing. That's where you see now we're exporting more than we are importing to consume. We're talking about industrialization. And then we're talking about investors coming into this country. And now what do we have? We have multinationals folding up and going. And all of these things that are going to give Nigeria our value. First of all, we need to take back the flow of our currency out there. The Naira is too much. It's too much out there. We see the CBN talking about it every day. Currency in circulation drops this percent. Currency in circulation increase this percent. It's too much out there. Now, when you look at all of these factors, which of them can we do within 6 months or 12 months? They are not a wake up tomorrow thing. So why don't you, this policy in specific that you're saying it not working for you, why can't you take it back? If you take it back, then the dollar, the Naira as against the dollar will be able to now stay at a point. And then it might continue to depreciate, but not the free fall we're encountering at the moment now. Because it means that nobody is demanding for the Naira, but dollar is in demand. And that is why the importer and exchange exporters window is not favoring us. it just means that naira is not in demand.
Why would
That's
it
the
be in
simple
demand? What are you
English.
producing that
That's
your
the
naira
simple
would be in
English.
demand?
You have given it to investors, to foreign investors. You have given it for importers and exporters to determine your flow, and then obviously they are not demanding for your naira. That is why the dollar that is in demand is gaining value as against your currency naira that is not in demand. So what are we trying to say? There are some policies that we could go back, and for the president to sit down and make it look like it's not possible, that's him being insensitive. For subsidy, it might be a tricky one, because now the currency is at a point. If we were to go back to subsidy, we might not even be able to have the money to subsidize again, looking at what the value of our naira is at the moment. But what about this floating? And something needs to be done about it. Don't make it look like there was once a time the floating was done. It didn't work. We went back to what we're doing now. And at that time, the naira had a better value. What makes you think now that the value and the floating
it's not the same anymore.
Will be favorable to us in the first place? And then you just can't help. If Nigerians start speculating that there's something fishy or in between, who is to blame? Because this doesn't make sense. Why can't you fix what you started and is obviously not working out for you?
You know, Rachel, I don't know if it was yesterday or when I made mention of the fact that we clearly remember when this administration was starting, they made mention of a number of things in their manifestos, what they intend to do. And I keep making the comment, the fact that our government or the politicians were aware of what was happening. You are aware of the situation in Nigeria. You are aware that it will take next 10 years, 20 years to fix the economy of Nigeria. You are aware that we don't have all the infrastructure that are needed to put certain policies in place. You are aware of so many other things. And we keep asking the question, why are we still going the way we are going? We've had people who have predicted that this is happening. And then yet we refuse to listen, yet we choose to take decision. And in choosing of his cabinet members, I clearly remember a number of people saying that the president, because you're not really an economics per se, so you are not really knowledgeable. You can't know it all.
Yeah.
So you are supposed to surround yourself with intellectual people that are very knowledgeable about these things and that can give you good advice. And then you seeing it as, okay, this prediction will actually work. We made mention of the fact that we had prediction about the issue of food insecurity for a very long time, which we refuse to pay attention. Look at where we are presently. So I'm not even surprised. And then even talking about the removal of fuel subsidy, whether we take it or not, you made mention it's quite a tricky one, and I agree. I mean, we cannot go back. But then what about floating of the naira? Now we're having people talking about even our fiscal policy. What are we doing about that? What are we talking about our government spending? What are we talking about taxation and all of that? I clearly remember the only thing the president have done so far in regards to that is removing the entourage that the president. I think apart from that, that's the only thing we've cut down.
That's the only thing.
So what spending again have we cut down? Talking about government taxation and how much we spend. We're still talking about there's so much of spending.
There is.
And then why are we having our president refusing to go back on that particular reform? Well, I just hope that he have more people around him that will give him advice regarding this particular implication of doing this, because the way things are moving, somebody will say there's no point crying over a split milk, but what is the solution, which you rightly mentioned? We cannot say we want our naira to gain value. What are we producing? Rachel, I remember there was a time that there was Bata sandals and we used rubber from here in Nigeria. There was a time we had Dunlop tires. Everything that was being used to manufacture that were found in Nigeria. What is happening presently? We don't even have those people. The manufacturers are not here. We already saw predictions saying the first half of there is going to be a tough one for manufacturers, and they have been shouting and crying. You and I can actually attest to that. What you were buying before is no longer the same. I will talk about drugs and all of that. Most of our pharmaceuticals have left the country. So we are left at the detriment of whatever is going to happen to you should happen to you. We're having our papers having stories such as strange illness killed two medical workers or two health workers. And we really cannot tell what is that. So I just feel that, honestly, just like you said, if our president is choosing to stick to this economic reform, I just think he should have a second thought. There's nothing that is impossible. Just like we said, let us have other people give him more advice concerning things that are happening the implication of all of these policies that he's making, and then we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see how this whole thing will turn out to be. But I'm just hoping that the president has Nigerians at heart. Is to say you are aware of the pain of Nigerians, you're aware of everything that is happening, you're aware of how much transportation is, you're aware of how much it costs to buy grains in the market. If you're aware of every other thing, then I believe that you should be able to consider and possibly maybe do something.
Do something.
Do something
exactly.
about that particular
Yeah.
reform, especially when it comes to the floating of the naira. So we'll just keep hoping and trusting that, you know what, things will work out eventually. Well, Richard, I think we have to draw the curtain for the
fair.
program today here. And thank you also to our viewers. Thank you to our supporters for making us part of your afternoon. Until we come here again next week, do have a blessed weekend ahead.